What is up, maniacs? Welcome back to WMMA Mania. This is episode 30. I am your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest, all the happenings in the world of mixed martial arts when it comes to women specifically. How are we doing today, you guys? Got started a little bit early because I can. As you can see, we normally kick off at 12, but we were ready to go a little early, so might as well get it going here, right? We have a rather small lineup today. I'm going to try and condense it, get it in about an hour max, but we are looking at, of course, a rather violent recap of UFC Vegas 60. I mean, overall, that event was a bloodbath. So we'll be recapping the two fights that we got on that event, taking a look at some news, nothing too crazy. Rematch that is coming along down the line here before the year is over, and shake up to an event next week. And then we'll have two events to preview this weekend. Bellator 285, just one fight there. And then, as you can see on our cover for this episode, the RIZIN 38 Super Atomweight Grand Prix semifinals are going down. And my goodness, the fights of the weekend. I don't think there's any debate about that. Gonna be some good ones, in particular that one on the left down there, as you can see. So let's just get right into things, you guys. Might as well. How are we doing here on another Tuesday? There is Contender Series today, as always. I don't believe there are any fights, any women's fights on the card tonight. I am not very good at keeping up all the time with that, and that's great. I just hit a wrong button there. So, hold on. Oh, that was close. Okay, I hit a tab. I thought it was going to kick me from the stream. All right, we're off to a terrific start there. My goodness. Sarcasm. Anyway, they don't generally put more than one women's fight on Contender Series, it seems like. So I don't know what's going on tonight. But I don't remember seeing anybody for the weigh-ins yesterday, because I'm generally pretty good at seeing the pictures from weigh-ins that are all happening and whatnot. So, Ani, good to see you. Thank you for that's great. Yes. Sammy is here. Says, why are cards so mid these days? 280 and 281 are the only cards that are really good. Well, you would hope that they're good, Sammy. Those are the pay-per-view events. New York and Abu Dhabi. I mean, they always try to make those ones quite large and spectacular. The fight nights, as we know, not so much a priority. And I think we've talked about this many a time now. I mean, the UFC, since signing the deal with ESPN, doesn't really matter how. I mean, of course, it always matters, but in terms of them attracting the attention to an ESPN card, does not matter the same as it used to, because they get their guaranteed flat rate salary or whatever for those events. It's not like a pay-per-view event where, yeah, I mean, they also get that for those two being on ESPN, right? But then they get all the extra from the pay-per-view buys separately, where that's not the case with the fight nights, right? So just kind of the world we're in these days with the ESPN era. Ghost, good to see you. Jumbo, hi, early start. Yep, you betcha. Figured why not? We're ready to roll. So let's get rolling. As we kick off with UFC Vegas 60. Just two fights. We were supposed to have Aspen Lad versus Sarah Mcmahon on this card again, but surprise, surprise, Aspen Lad missed weight once again. So let's talk about that really quickly before we get into the fights, because clearly Aspen Lad should no longer be allowed to fight at 135 with these consistent issues. It is not fair at all to her opponents whatsoever. I feel terrible for Sarah Mcmahon having to go through these two shakeups here. I don't remember what the first one was for. I think that might have been an injury-related thing. I don't want to say specifically what that could have been for the UFC San Diego card, but Lad missed weight for this one. What, 2 pounds, I think? 138 she was. Didn't even try to use the box, which was kind of interesting. I mean, I guess 2 pounds, you could tell right there, but it's just a reoccurring theme, unfortunately. And you would have thought that after fighting up at 145, and sure, she didn't win, at least stay there. I know it's not a division. Don't want to get into that whole thing, but at this rate, Aspen Lad is going to be on her way to the PFL next season, I would imagine, because this is just a big problem to keep having. And honestly, it would be better for her if that was the case, because she'd be able to fight at 155, which surely would not be a problem, you would imagine. And then she has a much easier path to potentially winning $1 million. So I think it's a win-win situation for her, honestly, to leave the UFC at this point. Not that she isn't capable of beating UFC fighters and whatnot, and not to say that she would win a 155-pound tournament, but just in terms of all the factors around what is going on with her, save yourself some physical damage and health concerns, and then bigger payouts. I mean, sounds like a pretty good deal to me. So she'd kind of be rewarded leaving the UFC, if we're going to be honest there. As Rain says, Drake Riggs is the Aspen Lad of missing weight bad. All right, so I will take that. As James says, he loves when Lad does this. Feel bad for McMahon for not getting paid, but her coach is a D-bag. All right, there you go. Yes, Sarah Mcmahon is definitely the biggest loser in all of this. Really sucks for her. Was looking forward to that. Jimmy says, what a bizarre story for Lad. She said she had prepared for a great weight cut and in the best shape of her life. Oh, not like we haven't heard that one many a time, Jimmy. that's one of the, you look in the MMA phrase dictionary, that's definitely a recurring one, whether it's for Lad or anybody. I'm not singling her out there, but yeah, funny how that works sometimes, huh? Honesty, not usually the case when it comes to fight camp questions all the time. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. That's going to be interesting, that whole development. But as for what did actually happen, kicking things off with Loma Luke Boonmei getting back in the win column, defeating the newcomer Denise Gomez, or Denise Gomes, however you want to pronounce it. Via unanimous decision, 30-27s from 2 judges and a 29-28 on the third man there. So this was a pretty solid vintage Loma performance for the most part, mixed in with obviously some grappling there. 4 of 5 on the takedowns, hit some head and arms in the second and third. Was fending off some submission attempts there, as you can see from Gomes, particularly in that first round, a very kind of chaotic end to that round. But the big story here was kind of course, Loma's fantastic elbows in tight, and I mean, countered with some of those slice and dice, landing her kicks at range. Just a pretty good overall performance for Loma. And then the ground and pound elbows as well. I mean, that was really kind of the big highlight, was her getting off those always dangerous elbows, and then showing some pretty solid grappling. There were some scares again, like I said. There was the also the arm triangle. Like, she looked better in obviously some areas, but again, it wasn't enough to convince me, like, all right, new and improved Loma who can handle these bigger wrestlers, like Gomes, obviously not the best grappler in the division, still a very young fighter, a prospect in her own right. This didn't really tell us anything, and it really shouldn't have. We shouldn't have expected it to. Short notice, all this stuff. Even if she would have fought Diana still, that wasn't a matchup that really could have told us where, if Loma has made any super big adjustments to be able to really make a climb up the ladder. I don't think we have reached that. Still a great performance and a good win, so congratulations to her. But in terms of how far we can go, still feel the same about that, which is a bummer, because she's, a great fighter, but she's just limited in some areas. And I'm going to say it's the size, always is kind of the big thing here. But technically, there were some grappling issues there, despite having more success than not. And, you got to feel good for her, especially after kind of what she talked about afterwards, talking about some mental health stuff. So that's always great to hear, and glad that she is in a better place now and, didn't give up. So if you haven't seen her kind of post by comments, I would recommend checking them out. Definitely pretty inspiring. So that is worth a shout indeed. Indeed. As Ghost says, love Loma, but this was a bizarre fight. But all that matters is Loma won, right? That's definitely what it's getting at. As long as you get your hand raised. Said she made the same mistake Whaley did against Rose in the rematch, took the back instead of staying in mount, right? The back is a complex position where you can lose it easily. Yeah, definitely probably easier to lose than mount if you're to make that comparison, Ghost. And then didn't really tighten up the body triangle, which definitely helps you stay in that position. But yeah, as Rain says, this should have been a field day for Loma, but it was not. Ghost made a great point. As long as Loma wins, who cares? Well, keep that energy with everybody then, you guys, because at least Reed won last week, right? So I don't hear you saying the same thing about her, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, it was a short notice fight as well. So, I mean, she didn't get a full prep for Gomez. So, of course, you can say, oh, maybe that'll be a worse chance for that person or a better chance. And I guess I gave her a better chance because she did do pretty well in some areas, threatened again with submissions on the ground. Maybe got a little too comfortable in those areas, but it was, again, probably the area she was going to have the best success in no matter what. So that's probably how she was feeling about that. As James is not impressed with Gomez. She couldn't take Loma down when Loma turned her back and walked away. How bad does a fighter have to be to not capitalize on a mistake? The cage definitely helped with that. The fence was there, so it wasn't like wide open. But yeah, that was a very interesting sequence, wasn't it? That was odd. Walking away with 30 seconds there, like the fight, like the round was over. I don't know what was going on through her head there. I don't know if she answered that in the post fight. I would imagine somebody had to ask her, but yeah, that was not a good idea, but thankfully it didn't cost her. Yeah, odd sequence for sure. As Rain says, well, Loma is a technical savant that works with the best strawweight in the world. Whaley, at least Reed is just not good. All right, well, still a win's a win is what we were getting at with that point. So, yes, congrats to Loma, though. In the end, don't know what they do next. Maybe try and rebook that Belbita matchup. We'll see. Don't know what's going on with her either. But, yeah, there was some blood, as there was blood in a lot of the fights. My God, one of the bloodiest fight nights in definitely a while. So that's always a treat. And then the next fight we're about to talk about did not have blood, but my God, if you want to talk about what looked like the closest thing to a murder on this card, it was probably this result. Jillian Robertson defeating Maria Agapova via second round submission, rear naked choke. And if you want to talk about fight IQ issues, obviously this was one of the more problematic displays from somebody in a while, from Agapova, who was doing fine. And the first round went pretty much as you expected it to, or as it should have gone, right? And the thing was always, depending on how aggressive Maria Agapova is going to be in the first round, as she typically is, except for that Sabina Mazo performance where she really turned a corner, looked great in that one. Great approach, great game plan, everything in that one. Should have been trying to replicate that in this one. I think she did, especially if you compare it to other performances from her. Still, it wound up in some bad positions with Jillian, but I mean, really was beaten on her pretty bad. Elbows, defending takedowns. Like, she actually did very well in the first round, won the first round. I think there's no debate about that. Jillian did not really do much damage whatsoever. But then in the second round, just kind of stuck with it. I don't think Agapova gassed. It's just that she clearly really needs to work on her takedown defense. That was the issue in the Morose fight as well. And we always knew Robertson was going to try and do this the whole time. Best path to victory. Just kept grinding and grinding until she got what she wanted. Agapova couldn't keep her off. If she would have been able to do that, obviously things would have ended up going her way. I don't think there's much debate about that. But once the choke got on initially against the cage, they were in kind of that all fours position. It was kind of sliding under the neck. Mouthpiece comes out. I don't know if it was intentional for Agapova to put her tongue between her teeth, but that was horrifying to see play out as they go from against the cage to this position here at the end, as you can see in the image, where the squeeze is getting tighter and tighter. Agapova not fighting it really at all and just chomping on her tongue. I totally thought it was going to come off. I really did. And I'm curious to know if she has like had any damage to her tongue, because that was very crazy. That was a very violent sequence to watch unfold. And she didn't even tap, just went straight out and like rigor mortis right after. That was wow. Not a fall from grace for Maria Agapova, because she is still a prospect, has always been a prospect. But man, they really put too much hype on her. She's been exposed a good bit, and not to say she doesn't still have potential, because again, fantastic performance against Sabina Mazo. That's the potential shining through right there of what she can really be. But she's got to do something. She's got to go train with, like, I don't know, go train with Cejudo, Team Elevation, somebody who can Elevation. That might be a good one. Somebody who can really fix this grappling deficiency she has, because it has been her biggest weakness, very clearly. Aside from, don't really count the Dobson fight she gassed out and from trying to beat her up so badly. That was just more of a fight IQ thing too. That's also been a problem, but obviously these last two have resulted in bad losses because of the grappling deficiencies. So I would hope she knows she needs to work on that. But you never know. You never know. And yeah. And what? She's been at MMA Masters, right? So you would think, I don't know, maybe Colby hasn't been around. That would be a good guy to help you. But yeah, I mean, according to him, he hasn't been around, or not according to him, but you know what I mean. As Alex is here, as I'm about to sneeze. Hold up. Whoa. He says, yeah, congrats to Loma. She did all the stuff we were practicing in wrestling class. That's cool. There you go. Insider information from Alex. I would imagine still over in Thailand, right, Alex? What time is it over there for you? It's gotta be nighttime-ish, right? It's early morning in Singapore, which is fairly close, right? So appreciate you tuning in all the same. As Go says, I like Jillian Robertson. She has decent takedowns for someone who's good at jiu-jitsu, unlike Derner Ortega. That is a fair point. Yeah, she definitely, those have gotten better over time. Striking needs a lot of work. This is no secret. Yes. Rain says Agapova is really spazzy. Yeah, she definitely threw some questionable techniques. There's some spinning. Was it spinning back elbow or the spinning back fist? Kind of from a distance, just kind of throwing it out there. She can be a little bit spastic indeed. As Ghost says, plus the way she handled Cachoeira trying to eye gouge her was awesome. Like she pretended it didn't happen. Yeah, that's a good approach, right? Makoto, good to see you. Says thoughts on people saying that Chandler versus Poirier should be a co-main event over Weili versus Carla. That's pretty hilarious. Those are just people who hate on the women pretty much, because obviously title fights should always be above non-title fight, unless you're Bellator in 2018 or whenever they did that. They've done that actually like 2 events. And I guess the UFC did that also for 196, right? When Misha and Holly was below Connor and Nate Diaz, which that annoyed me as well. But of course, they were always going to do that. Yeah, that's silly. I don't think it's obvious, Makoto. Ghost says Cejudo and Captain Eric told me they don't accept just anyone at Fight Ready, so Agapova might not be a good fit for them. All right, well, that's a fine approach too. But I mean, in theory, that would be good for her, of course. Alex says it's 2 a.m. All right, well, appreciate you, man. Even more, trooper. So very, very nice of you to stick around and be here the times that you have. But so yeah, that was very violent, very bloody UFC Vegas 60. My God, I am telling you, you guys, I think that Gregory Rodriguez is cut. It had to be the worst cut I've ever seen in MMA. And I've seen, most of the obvious ones. Marvin Eastman's is the one that comes up a lot. I know Overeem's was disgusting. Robbie Lawler's. I don't know. The fact that you could see the man's vein and skull is just insane. How a knee could do that to a face that way and for him to win blew my mind. That was disgusting. And I'm pretty fine with handling most of those things, but that was gnarly. That was really gnarly. I think that's the grossest one I've ever seen. I might be forgetting some, but that was fucked up. That was fucked up. Oh, man. So, yeah. Congrats to him as well. Insane. Absolutely insane. As James says, the Rodriguez fight and Sandhagen fights were the only good ones here. Definitely the most memorable ones. Yeah, I'm completely blanking on even what the other ones were. So I guess that tells you all you need to know about the rest of the action. No. So anyway, let's get to the news now. Breeze through it, just 2 bits here before we get into the previews. Feel free to ask some questions again, but like I said, might be a shorter show today. I'm getting some notifications on the phone if you're wondering why I keep looking to my right there. As Rain asks, did you know that half the fighters were Contender Series fighters on the card? How much are the UFC trying to cut costs? Oh, well, I don't know. That's a topic that it's definitely better to have Pat here for, and something that has been going on for a while. But that's another thing that happened at Joe Pfeiffer's win, right? That was big and impressive. Oh, I mean, the Feely fight was fun. What are you talking about? Who said that? Was that James? Yeah, James. The Feely fight was good. Feely and Algio was a really good fight. I liked that one a lot. Pfeiffer's win was very, very expected. That went exactly as it should have. Kind of a layup for him there, but yeah, there was some good action. Lots of blood again. And lots of Contender Series guys. I mean, when you sign practically all the winners every week, Rain, it's they're gonna fill up. They are certainly gonna fill up. So cost cutting. Oh, they haven't got rid of too many super expensive people lately. So I don't know if I would lean on that as of late, you know what I mean? But Jen says, I have to ask an important question. Do you know it's not cage fighting? I have a bone to pick with them. Okay. On Twitter, right? I'm pretty sure I've interacted with them a good amount. I don't know them personally, no, but I'm pretty sure I know who that is. Shout out to them. All right, let's get to the news now. Kicking things off with the rematch I alluded to earlier. As Bellator is rebooking the flyweight title fight rematch time for Liz Carmouche and Juliana Velasquez 2 at Bellator 289 on December 9th in the old Mohegan Sun, Uncasville, Connecticut. Poor Kana. Kana Army assemble. She will not be getting her Japan title fight as she hoped for, but I mean, shouldn't be too surprised. She'll probably fight Vita Ortega next. That'd be cool if they did that one in Japan, whether on a Bellator or a RIZIN show. That'd be sick. But in the meantime, we will get this rematch around that end of the year time, obviously, December 9th. And I'm not upset about it because I don't think we do have a super clear contender behind Velasquez, the former champ. And obviously the controversy with how the first fight ended. in a pretty competitive fight. I don't have too many issues here. I don't really have any issues with it because, again, things are kind of muddled a bit. So if we can get some clarity, that'd be great. Further clarity, you could say. So, yeah. I guess there's not too much to say about this fight. We kind of expected it, it seemed like. I mean, Coker didn't seem super committal, kind of in the aftermath of it, but alas, we're gonna get it. So, yeah, cool. I mean, sure. That's pretty much where we're at with that. So, let's see if Juliana Velasquez can not get stuck in that crucifix position again, because that was obviously problematic. We'll see. We will find out soon enough. And then the last bit of news here, real quick. Again at flyweight, a shakeup to next week's card as Christina Williams is out of Invicta FC 49, the co-main event. No reason given. But now Maiju Suotama steps in versus Ketlin Souza on that Wednesday, September 28th date in Oklahoma City. Or not Oklahoma, Hinton, Oklahoma. I don't know why I said that. That is the card where Jillian DeCourse will challenge for the atomweight title. Jessica Del Boni, the champ. That's next week, you guys. That kind of really snuck up on us, huh? So looking forward to that card next week. Glad that Ketlin's still going to be fighting. Always shakeups to Invicta cards. Seems like nothing ever perfectly stays intact. So this isn't a huge surprise. Unfortunate for Christina because she's been on a roll kind of. With that Pyrocene win, again, was very impressive how she just got right on that rear naked once she fell into place and everything. Capitalized on a sequence there about as perfectly as you could have. And then for Suotama, always a pretty entertaining fighter to watch too. So not the worst replacement at Invicta 49 coming up next week. Very much looking forward to that title fight, though, of course. So there you have it for today's news cycle. Just a little quick hitter there. Quick hitter of flyweight action. Jin says, video stating how Joanna versus Whaley was technical fighting versus Whaley's brawling. And he said the thing Ghost disproved before that Joanna was winning the kickboxing exchange in the rematch. Well, I will have to see it, Jin. Do I think it's healthy to downplay specific fighters because you don't like them? Making a 12-minute video is over. No, I mean, if you dislike them, no, it's always good to be as unbiased as you possibly can. And that's, you guys know that's what I'm all about. So Whaley, one of my favorite fighters too. I love watching her fight and all that, but I've told you guys how I feel about the title scene and all that. Should she get the title shot? I don't think so. We're getting it anyway. I'm not going to complain. But yeah, like I can be real and have my favorites and or people I like and don't like and still think things should be the way they should be. And that's how I kind of feel. So if to downplay someone just because you don't like them, I don't think that's necessarily fair. And I might do that a little bit with the Diaz brothers, but I feel it's pretty fair at this stage. But we won't get into that. But for the most part, I like to think pretty fair and subjective, even though there is a lot of objectivity also mixed in. You know what I mean? Crombie, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Rain says, what are some good striking tactics that can make a good wrestler tentative? Can you and Ghost give some examples if you have any? Well, Ghost says, striking tactics against wrestler put strikes in the space where they want to shoot. Hill versus Loopy is a good example. Well, you see, when Ghost beats me to it, this might as well leave it to him because, yeah, that was definitely a very good recent example and ended up getting Angela Hill the win. So there you go. Hill would show a knee or an uppercut to make Loopy reluctant. And another good example is Rana versus Miyu Yamamoto from last year, right when that fight happened. Rana was trying to time those knees as Miyu was shooting, and she did early on, but still succumbed to takedowns. But then in the end, landed that perfect one and finished the fight with it. So in the space where the wrestler wants to be, put the strikes there. Another good example would be that fight. So I think that one should be on YouTube if you want to go check it out. But well, there you go, Ray. And then go look at the Rana versus Miyu Yamamoto fight on RIZIN's YouTube channel. Pretty sure it should be there. Pretty sure it should be. But yeah, there you go. There you go. That's a good example. But I do think that Hill versus Loopy might be a better example just because Miyu did have success, but at the same time, she also had the biggest failure in comparison. So that's still a good one. That's a great recent example too. But yeah, ultimately, attack where they're going to be. And I don't think it would count necessarily Henry Cejudo versus Dom as much as I don't want to talk about that. But the finishing sequence there, Dom wasn't going for a takedown, but he, ducked into the knee. Kind of similar in that regard. But yeah. And Sammy says, I can't complain about Marina getting a title shot when she turned down Whaley at 275. Yeah, I know. I'm not complaining about that either. I still believe she deserves the title shot the most. But yeah, she did have that chance for the fight that they ended up going to do that. Going to decide the contender or whatever that ended up being Joanna Whaley too. I don't know, however you want to phrase that for the strawweight title fight. So yeah, all right. Let's get into the previews now. And we don't have much to talk about here for Bellator 285, admittedly. Just one fight. A former Fan of Punch Breakdown recipient is back in need of a win after she might have the award right now for worst fight IQ of the year in her last fight. Just got to be honest about it. But it's Leah Mccourt versus Diana Silva. And what I'm referencing in that comment is Mccourt's loss to Sinead, the one-legged Sinead Kavanagh, who I still can't believe. I still can't believe she lost that fight, considering the circumstances. But alas, again, here we are. Now she's taking on Diana Silva in Dublin, Bellator 285. This is not the co-main event, I don't think, but it is on the main card. Leah Mccourt, one of their, UK superstars in a way. Odds here, kind of surprisingly even. And I say surprisingly just because I feel that Leah Mccourt's grappling should be good enough here to get Silva down, even though, again, she kind of struggled a little bit there with the one-legged Kavanagh, but still ended up losing. Like, very odd kind of position for where Leah Mccourt is right now. Striking is kind of always needed to continue to catch up to her grappling. Whereas Silva doesn't do anything super dynamic. I mean, she's got kind of the, puts together a 1-2, throws a head kick behind it. We saw that a lot against Julia Budd. Seems to have some good power there. And, she got the win over Janae Harding in the last fight, which a good win to have there. And a similar opponent. Janae was beating on Leah Mccourt. If you want to do MMA math, she was beating on her pretty good until what was caught with the up kick and then kind of fell right into a triangle. And it was a small comeback there for Leah Mccourt in that one. But yeah, I would favor her just a teens because of the grappling advantage. I would expect her to have size about the same here, 5'8" to 5'7", 69-inch reach, 68.5. Virtually identical. Virtually identical here. So it'll be interesting. For the most part, I'm not super interested in it, honestly. But as you can tell, but if Silva can keep Mccourt offer. I mean, that's clearly the best path for her there. James says, when should a fighter work on their weakness during camp? When Ghost mentioned that was that what Carla was working on was not good, so I have to ask, when should they work on their weakness? I mean, you should honestly probably work on your weaknesses all the time, right? Maybe just depending on how much focus you put onto a specific weakness, that can vary depending on the opponent you have and what approach you want to take, right? But overall, I would think it'd be good to always work on that, especially if you know it's a very glaring, gaping hole of sorts. Like I think it's fair to say like Robbie Lawler did a pretty good job of that with his takedown defense when he resurged a bit after the Strikeforce period that he had. Serene says the Leah Mccourt PvP disaster. Yes, Ghost, I've thrown shade at you. Oh, he'll never live that one down, will he? I still think it was worth I mean, there's always something to take away from everybody. So I appreciate that Phantom Punch still do. I appreciate them all. Esther says, hey, am I friends with Jed? I saw him write a live article about 275. I'm friends with Jed for sure. And I think he does those articles for every pay-per-view. Actually, I don't know if he does it for fight nights, but I'm pretty sure he does it every time. And he says, the crowd was for Joanna, and when they cheered for Whaley, he said the crowd just wanted a good scrap since Whaley is not a fan favorite. Okay, I don't know. Again, this is things that I haven't seen, and I remember the reactions being pretty similar, Esther. So I'm not sure. And she says she was at Singer. Yes, I remember that you went to that. So then you know better than anybody. So I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say here. You know much better than anybody else. As Ghost says, you should be working on your weaknesses or habits when you don't have a fight booked. Can't use a specific tactic for specific opponents. Yeah, so there you go. And as says, we all went crazy when Whaley walked out. I mean, I would imagine so. Yeah, it seemed again like the reactions were pretty good for everybody that night. Honestly, it was a great crowd, great event, obviously. But that is Bellator 285 going down in Ireland, where we will probably see the end of Melvin Manhoef's life in the co-main event, unfortunately, as he takes on Yoel Romero. For whatever reason, that fight needed to be rebooked. Bellator gonna Bellator with the matchmaking. So it's just how it goes. Zester says, I just want to know why media likes to paint Whaley as a fighter with no fan appeal. I don't know. Again, I feel like you guys see or bring these things to me way more than I see them. And I mean, in terms of fans, like there was an article Jesse did for MMA Mania. Here, go check out the website, MMAnia.com. For all your MMA needs, don't forget to follow us, like, share, and subscribe on all platforms, please. Shameless plug there. About Usman talking about Whaley. Very odd comments from Usman, actually. Like, clearly favoritism for Rose, what he was talking about in that article. You can go check out on the website, of course. And like all the comments are pretty pro Whaley. They usually are, especially when it comes to Carla stuff. So I mean, I always see very positive stuff for Whaley, at least since the kind of first Rose fight. Of course, we all know what was all surrounded by that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you guys, again, you see this much more than me. I don't know if you're looking specifically for it or whatnot, but I think Whaley's clearly very popular, and obviously in China, probably the biggest fighter, undeniably, right? Jimmy says, how about this one? Why was there so much sympathy when Whaley knocked out Joanna, but when Rose knocked out Whaley, media praised Rose and made fun of Whaley's career? I don't know. Disagree with the making fun of Whaley's career part. Definitely did not see that. Praise for Rose. Certainly, it was a quick and flawless knockout. Insane. That was a crazy knockout that she had. And against somebody like Whaley so quickly. So, I mean, Rose deserves praise for that, 100%. And then sympathy for Joanna. You know the answer to that, Jimmy. She retired afterwards and hadn't fought since the first one. An all-time great, all this stuff. You know the answer to that already. So I think everything you said there is pretty fine and justified, makes sense. You know why it happened, except for the making fun of Whaley's career. That did not happen. I did not see that. And he says he saw a ton of articles making fun of Whaley. Well, I would like to see him again. I did not see any of that stuff. Making fun of her, like, I don't know about that part. But yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, that was a very insane knockout. Yeah, it was praiseworthy. As much as we didn't want it to happen, perhaps. But yeah, it was wild. So, all right, with all that in mind out of the way for now, feel free to keep it coming. Let's get to the RIZIN 38 preview, which this event will come after Super RIZIN doubleheader, same day, back to back. Floyd Mayweather's boxing, Mikuru Sakura on Super RIZIN. That is going to be something. So he's going back to Japan for that one. But we're not here to talk about that. But that is going down this weekend. Crazy. We're here to talk about the atomweights and the semifinals because we're going to see what we get for New Year's. And we're starting things off with Ayaka Hamasaki, the GOAT, taking on Siwoo Park. My goodness. In the first of the two matchups. And this fight right here is going to be bananas. And I'm a little bit afraid for Ayaka. I think that Siwoo Park actually aside from Seki, obviously, aside from Zawa, could very well be the toughest matchup for Ayaka. Maybe in the whole division. Perhaps. Thinking of everybody else, Del Boni would be an interesting one worldwide. But Siwoo Park, man, that last fight against Kana Asakura, like, she is leveling up tremendously since her loss to Seki 10 months ago. So, I mean, what a year it's been for her, the span of a year. Beats Rana in a great fight there. Erikoga, performance that she wasn't happy with, but then the Kana Sakura fight, I mean, my goodness, just thumped on her absolutely everywhere, nearly finished her a couple times, defended the takedowns brilliantly. Her sprawl is like chef's kiss right now. One of the best sprawls out there, really, at the moment. Siwoo Park, her takedown defense has gotten scarily good. And of course, Kana maybe didn't set things up as nicely or as well as Ayaka can, or as trickily as she can, utilizing her judo and whatnot. But if she can keep things off the ground and out of bad positions with Ayaka, which that would be a great idea. And we saw Ayaka mix things up beautifully against Jessica Aguilar, a perfectly mixed performance with her striking, hitting that teep, of course, and almost finishing Jag in the first round, and then using her takedowns, blasting those doubles from pretty much across the ring in the second and third round a bit. If she can kind of mix that up, I mean, Ayaka's going to be pretty good and comfortable here, but easier said than done. Got to make Siwoo Park think, because if she just kind of goes in, obviously, for some grappling takedowns and judo throws or whatever she tries to hit, and Park defends, then on the feet, I mean, Park is a great striker, one of the better ones. Backs a wall up of a punch, puts her combination together nice and tightly, rattles off on the body, like, she mixes it up very well. Good leg kicks. Ayaka has all this too, right? But the power edge, I think, would probably go to Siwoo Park. Technique-wise, the darting in and out that we get from Ayaka, like, this matchup is, my God, it's really good. It is a really intriguing one. I think it's a tough one for both of them. It really is a very tough fight for both of them. Like, this is a finals-worthy matchup. I'm very excited for it. But really, the big X factor here, if you think about it, like the one spot that someone's going to be the most out of their depth is if Ayaka gets parked to the ground, most likely on top of her. Even if she's on bottom, then she's going to still be comfortable. But the worst spot for anybody to be in this fight would be Park on bottom of underneath Hamasaki. But it's just a matter of getting it there. So very, very curious to see how Ayaka kind of approaches this matchup. And I think that really that will kind of entirely dictate how this fight goes, because if she does try to fight like the replicate that Jessica Aguilar performance, kind of striking first before mixing in the grappling, I don't know if that would be better to kind of reverse that, or who knows. I mean, we've seen Ayaka kind of use that type of flow game plan in terms of mixing things in the past. Of course, the Jinyu Fry rematch. There's some good examples with her, of course, but this will be an interesting one, man. I'm very excited for it. It's gonna be tough. As Jimmy says, not justified since people made Joanna's retirement bigger than Whaley's knockout. Just the contrast is absurd. This is going back to the other topic, of course. Rose KOs Whaley. Everyone praises her. Whaley KOs Joanna. Praise for Joanna. Again, these are very different situations, though, Jimmy. Like, Rose knocked out the champion who had not been beaten in 22 fights, 21 fights. Yeah, it was 21 because Megumi has the record for 22 wins in a row. Joanna getting knocked out. Wasn't her first knockout loss. She wasn't as good as she has been. Like, you can't, I don't think you can compare this all too much. Like, I think it is fair to say that Joanna's retirement was definitely a bigger thing than Whaley getting the knockout. Yes, it was a fantastic knockout and all that, but like in terms of the situations around both of these, let's go this way. Rose knocking out Whaley, that's at the top. That big deal, obviously, huge deal. Knocked out the champion in that fashion, crazy. Joanna retiring, you're seeing a legend, somebody go away. We kind of knew was going to happen once she lost, whenever. And then right underneath it, you'd have the knockout. It earns her the title shot, sure, but these are very situational kind of comparisons. I don't think it's too comparable at the same time. When he says the praise should go to Whaley, she should still get praised, obviously. But in terms of, I mean, I don't know if you should praise the retirement exactly, but it's definitely a big thing, if you know what I mean. So, Go says, can I just reiterate something Dan Tom brought up with all this Whaley talk? Asian fighters will always be portrayed by the media a fodder for fan favorites, no matter how unfair it is. Yeah, I think that is definitely something we've kind of seen over the years. I mean, again, there also is a lot less of them, clearly, in America than, or the UFC specifically, than we would like to see, right? So Jimmy says, I can't agree with that. Whaley puts on a dominant performance and people are feeling bad for Joanna. Just disgraceful in my eyes. I mean, I don't know if it's feeling bad. Of course, her fans probably are, but like, I don't know. When somebody like that retires, Jimmy, like, I don't think you can be too surprised. I mean, look at Bisping, retired off of 2 losses and getting violently knocked out by Kelvin Gastelum. That was a crazy great performance from Kelvin. Like, this is a great example. This is what you should be comparing. Kelvin's knockout, beautiful. That performance, incredible. Completely overshadowed by Bisping's retirement. And the fact that he was on short notice, all this, pretty similar. I mean, the short notice element kind of throws it off there, but that's one where Kelvin's performance got totally overshadowed by that kind of thing. I don't want to say not BJ Penn or some other kind of person like that. It's happened. It happens a lot. It happens a lot, Jimmy. This is not just a Whaley thing. All right. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to say to you here. Where when that kind of thing happens. I mean, what's another one? I know there certainly is one. Silva versus Hall. I mean, there's one. I don't know. He didn't retire necessarily after that loss, but he, no one remembers kind of that performance from Uriah. They just remember that he was the one to beat him. Like this happens all the time with these kind of guys, or people, fighters, whoever. This goes to just be happy that when Whaley gets her back, it's going to piss off all the racists and haters. How awesome is that going to be? That definitely would be something that would annoy her haters. So, all right. That is Ayaka versus Siwoo Park. Very, very much excited for that one. And I see another one Kelvin should have been praised for. Yeah, see, exactly. Like, not saying that that's not the case or that it shouldn't have been that way, but, just explaining, why people look at the stories more, right? But, that was, yeah, some great stuff from Kelvin for sure. And I love Bisping. Bisping's one of my all-time favorites. And I do like Kelvin too, but yeah, it's just one of those things. That's how people, I guess. That's how they do it. All right, so let's close things out here now with the other semifinals matchup. The champ, the prodigy, Starflower, Seki Zawa versus Anastasia Svet Kivska, the replacement for Rana Kubota. Unfortunate, but still intriguing. Excuse me. Ayaka, the champion, Svetkivska. I mean, it's an uphill battle. Like this isn't a fight that I think we need to break down or preview too much compared to how much we talked about it when it was announced a couple weeks ago. In terms of the size and length, that's very interesting because 5'2", Sayaka to the 5'7", very long, tall atomweight, Svetkivska. And they have the straw weights here on there for whatever reason, but this is a atomweight fight. And I mean, both their last fights were atomweight. So Tapology, get your shit together. Latest weigh-ins were 108 pounds. Svetkivska, again, put on a very, very good performance for just being 2-0 at the time going against Rana. Fantastic performance. Nearly got finished. Somehow survived the combination in the first round with a head kick, body shot kind of combo there. I think in reverse order, but just nasty stuff from Rana. Somehow Svetkivska survives and goes on to really outstrike Rana, but she just didn't quite have as much impact on her shots in comparison. So she ends up losing. Close, hard-fought battle. And then for Sayaka, just that stunning performance against Fontoura. I mean, you guys want to go back and hear what I said about it. Can't say anything more. Can't be any more impressed by Izawa just this whole time. So, I mean, in this one, we didn't really see Svetkivska's grappling tested too much against Rana. But boy, oh boy, we're about to, and she's most likely not going to succeed because this is Seki Zawa we're talking about. One of perhaps the most talented fighter, all things considered, in the world right now. Just incredible what she's done in such a short period of time. I think that as soon as this fight hits the ground, once Saka shoots in, gets her there, it'll just be a matter of time before it's over. I could see an armbar. That seems pretty likely. You got these long limbs here from Anastasia. Someone's going to get caught. Saka finds a window. Give her an inch. She takes a mile. That's how it's going to go. For Svetkivska, you want to go back to what we were talking about with the takedown defense. Malupi and Hill and Miyu and Rana fights. Svetkivska obviously going to want to strike where Izawa's going to be for those takedowns and try and time her. Keep her uncomfortable. Use that length. Use that length, girl. Easier said than done, though. And especially against someone like Starflower. That is no easy task. So this fight will pretty much just be a matter of time until it hits the ground, I think. Crazier things have happened. But again, that's just the freak we're working with here, people. It really is. Sky and Night Lord, good to see you. Love the name. Says Kelvin Gaslam is cool. He's a cool guy. I would agree with that. I've spoken with Kelvin a couple times. Mccourt says he asked this last week about all the promotion for Whaley versus Carla. There hasn't been very much. There's been zero, actually. Well, they did that for Joanna at 275. No one got mad, but the Team Magnum boys, what's the difference here? I don't know what. Oh, the promotion. Not to mention every media outlet was saying Whaley was not confident since she changed camps and lost twice. I guess and lost the worst version of Rose. I don't know what you're trying to say there, Mccourt. Confusing me a bit. But James says, can Starflower's opponent use the tactics you guys mentioned earlier? So, I mean, the length, again, her length advantages, I think will really help her with that possibility. But again, she's just so inexperienced. She's very talented, though. Like, I mean, it was very, very impressive, her performance against Rana, despite losing and nearly getting finished. Like, her surviving was very impressive. But she can, James, of course she can. But I give her a very, very small percentage of a chance to successfully, implement those kind of tactics. So, yeah. We'll see, though. That's the fun part about it. Mccourt says, like the UFC only promoting Whaley for UFC 281 and none for Carla. I haven't seen promotion for anybody, Mccourt, for that fight. For that entire fight. And I know it's not 281 season yet. We still got to get to 280. So we're starting to see stuff there, but I've seen zero promotion. So I don't know. I don't really have any comments on that either way, because I'm not seeing nothing. And again, we're not there yet. We got to get to 280 first. So I would imagine maybe that's why. But that is your RIZIN 38 preview. The semifinals going down this weekend. Excuse me as I take a gander here. Yeah, very, very much looking forward to those fights. More so as I love Seki Zawa, definitely one of my favorites. You guys know this. She is incredible. Cannot wait to see how that one shakes out. I'm very excited for both, but fight of the week is definitely Hamasaki versus Siwoo Park for me. That one is going to be wild. I mean, across the board. I think that's the one to watch out for. Kyoji versus Kintaro should be interesting stylistically, but ultimately, I just don't think Kintaro will quite have what it takes. And I spoke to both of them for this recent episode of Broad Horizon, episode 19. Check it out. Shameless plug. It is out now. You can also hear from Hiromasa Ugikubo and Juri Ohara, who's taking on Luis Gustavo. I know you want to talk about fantastic matchups. I mean, that is a violence fest for sure. The deep lightweight champ who should be getting a RIZIN title fight any second now. I mean, he should have got one multiple fights ago. So a lot of good action there. Check that out here on the channel, MMAnia.com. And everything else you could possibly need. If you follow us, like, share, and subscribe. You can even hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a gosh darn thing, like the Erin Blanchfield interview that dropped the other day. My goodness, spoke to cold-blooded herself as she gets ready for Molly McCann on that same card with Whaley and Carla. UFC 281, November 12th. Madison Square Garden. She's got a home game. Looking forward to that one. You can check that out here as well. So a lot to like. A lot to like these days. I think that's it for the plugs, honestly. Yeah. That's all we got. And then, of course, things in the works that are not quite ready to be discussed. But you know how it goes. So Mccourt says his question last week was, should the UFC just promote Whaley and none for Carla for UFC 281? Oh, no, of course not. They should promote both fighters. Absolutely. What kind of question is that? You don't want to, you do not go, never go back the route of like Ronda versus Nunes. You never want to weigh it heavily in one direction. You got to do both. Because, I mean, if you just do one person, then I don't know. You got to hear both sides of the story always and give, especially the casual fans, reasons to watch. If you're only focusing on one person, I don't know. I don't think it's as interesting. Because then they'll be like, well, who's she fighting? Go says, yes, anyone can use those tactics, but the problem is, can the fighter using them be disciplined enough to use it for 3 rounds? There you go. Yeah, exactly. 15 minutes, a long time. He says they did all the promotion for Joanna at 275. No one seemed to complain about it. Why would they complain if Lately got all the promotion? Well, in this case, Carlo's the champion, so that's your number one reason. But clearly, I mean, that's exactly the Ronda Nunes thing I was talking about there. But I don't remember that being the case either. I don't really remember much of the promotion for that fight at all either. UFC has not done a very good job with the straw weights being promoted at all, in my opinion. So I don't remember that being weighed in either direction, honestly. And again, that was the third fight, so that makes sense. I'm sure we'll definitely see more for Carlo Whaley, you would hope. He says that's what he was referencing. So yeah. All right, gotcha. But anyway, you guys, that is all the time we have for today. Appreciate you all so much. Of course, you can follow me at DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter and Instagram if you're into that kind of thing. Follow MMAnia.com on all the platforms imaginable. And yeah, I think that about does it. So we'll see you right back here next Tuesday, same time, different day. Same show, same me, and same you, hopefully. But until then, you guys, take care, stay safe, stay sane, enjoy the weekend of action. Peace.